A lot of you have asked us for this particular video. Yes, I'm talking about the Aditya Birla Activ One policy review video. Sushant, pardon me for my terrible pun, but
Okay.
can you activate our minds with your knowledge about the Activ One policy?
Awesome. Yeah, I think always ready to break down a good policy. Yeah, I think so. This is a new offering by Aditya Birla. And they've been making some really bold claims with this plan, right? In terms of the kind of features they offer, the kind of coverage they're willing to offer, and even I think to the extent of the variants that they have under this plan. So yeah, quite intrigued and was quite interested when it came out.
Right. I have a question, and I think our viewers too have posed this question all the time. Why did we decide to tie up with Aditya Birla in the first place? Like, what caught our eyes?
So honestly, I think firstly it was an excellent CSR, right? A claim settlement ratio of about 95%. And this is not just for last year. This is the average for the last 3 years. So that I think was probably one of the things that stood out for us. Additionally, I think it was also on popular demand, right, from our audience. I think Ditto's offering was just two plans, namely HDFC and Care Insurance. So I think that's something even we personally wanted to do, wherein we had at least one or two more options for people who would come to us for advice. So I think, yeah, it was a mix of multiple things, but mainly it was this.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And when this policy came to your desk, I'm sure you had a first quick look. What caught your eyes?
So I think the first thing that really stood out to me was the flexibility of this plan. Generally, when you see an insurance plan, they offer 2, maybe 3 variants, right? Trying to customize it slightly for their audience.
Right.
This plan came with 7 variants, right? So I think that was something that really stood out, where they're really trying to cater to pretty much anybody and everybody, right? In terms of the flexibility and customization. So all in all, I think, yes, that's really what this plan does offer at the end of the day. Right? If you're looking for a good comprehensive health insurance with all the modern features that you can think of, this is probably your best bet.
You mentioned a few standout features and a few modern age benefits.
Right.
Do you have some on your mind that you want to spring off at this
Okay. So I think one which strays away a bit from the traditional no-claim bonus is something called a loyalty bonus.
Okay.
Wherein they simply want you to just keep renewing the plan with them every year. And more often than not, the bonus is capped at 100%. This plan gives you a bonus of up to 500%. So essentially my 10 lakh plan can have another 50 lakhs added on to it, taking it to a good 60, 70 lakhs of total insurance. That's probably one of the things that really stood out to me. Additionally, you have some interesting ones like worldwide coverage. Again, not something very prevalent in health insurance. Maternity coverage, which is decent, not something we actively suggest, but if they are offering it and there aren't too many catches, what's the harm? I think that's probably a couple of them that really, off the top of my mind. And I think the last one that is available out there as well, but again, something that I personally liked that they were offering here was a day one coverage. Meaning if you have certain pre-existing conditions, they will offer you the insurance coverage for that particular condition from day one. Essentially, you don't have to serve a waiting period.
Wow, that's pretty rare, right? And in your experience as an advisor, you haven't seen that a lot.
True. These days, some companies have started to come out with it, but it's nice to see Aditya Birla as well hop onto that wagon.
Great. Now, the 7 variants. Do you have the 7 variants for us? And could you tell us more about them?
Sure, I can give you a rough overview. So think of Activ One MAX as your base variant. You have one above that called Activ One MAX Plus. Now, this one primarily focuses on adding some sort of, your diagnostic sort of charges. Those things can be covered through this variant.
Okay.
That's something that One MAX Plus would offer you. Then the next one is NXT, which is called NXT. That focuses on giving you really good restoration benefits and your pre-existing disease coverage benefits, wherein they'll reduce the waiting period. Then you have one called Vytl. This variant focuses more on covering and taking care of your chronic conditions that you might already have.
Okay.
So this again is a plan for conditions which generally those people might not be able to buy policies, right? In case you're already suffering from a chronic condition. But this plan does to an extent cater to your needs there as well. And then you have the VIP and VIP Plus variants. This, I think, just focuses more on giving you the worldwide coverage, right? Just to sort of enhance your protection if that's your requirement. And lastly, I think is called SAVR. This one focuses on giving you a daily cash benefit. So it's your base plan. It also covers a certain amount of daily cash to the tune of about 500 rupees per day for your parents and your in-laws. So this is like a daily allowance that you get while you're hospitalized for other miscellaneous expenses that could come up.
All right.
And that's what this will cover. Yeah.
All right. And how are the coverages options? Are they the same for all the variants?
No, so I think they're most of the variants, your One MAX, One MAX Plus, Vytl, SAVR, all of them. They would offer a coverage of about 5 lakhs up to 2 crores. So you'll have these, 5, 10 and so on. They give you these bands. And when it comes to VIP and VIP Plus, they offer you 5 lakhs all the way up to 6 crores as well.
You know what? I went through the brochure of Aditya Birla Activ One plan, and what stood out for me was they say if you take 10,000 steps per day or have high number of active days, you are basically entitled for a discount of up to 100% on your renewal the next year.
Yeah.
Now, that is something which is really great for someone who is active, who's looking to get fit.
Yeah.
And I think they call this the health returns.
True.
Do you have some more information about this? How does this work?
So I think this is more of a wellness benefit. And most insurance companies do offer it. But I think the discounts or the kind of returns they're offering are not as lucrative, right? It's a very nominal discount that they offer you. There, I think Aditya Birla has done a really good job with the kind of how lucrative they're trying to make it for you as well. So yes, I think like you rightly put it, in case you do fulfill a certain number of steps and you have a certain number of active days, which you can track through their apps, in your next year's insurance premium, you do get a pretty significant discount, wherein almost up to 100% is what they're offering.
Yeah.
Now think of it this way. One, sure, for me as a customer, I do get benefited, right? I get to stay healthy and I'm incentivized for it as well.
Exactly.
Two, for the insurance company as well, they have a lot of benefit, right? For them, it's that, look, the more active days a person has, the lesser probability for him to develop some health condition, the lesser chances of him making a claim, and thereby it's kind of in their favor.
Win-win for the both of us.
Win-win for both of us, exactly. So aside from this, they're also doing some more interesting features. One, I think, is called the Claim Protect benefit, wherein most people don't know this, but when you get admitted to a hospital, and even if you have the best health insurance, about 4 to 5% of your bill is not covered, and this is for consumables or non-medical expenses. So the hospital uses things like gloves, masks, syringes, and so on, right? Disposable items. And you're always left paying about 5%, like I said. So even for a nominal bill of 5-7 lakhs, you do shell out 20-30K out of your own pocket. Now, Aditya Birla promises to cover even that, right? They're literally going to cover 100% of your bill. So I think that's a pretty bold move, and let's see how that sort of goes.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Then they have an inflation protect benefit, wherein your cover would keep growing with the inflation rate as well. I think that's another standout feature. While this might not catch up with medical inflation, which is known to run at a very high rate, there's still no harm, right? At least my cover is growing. And lastly, I think, is the pre-existing disease coverage from day one, right? So here, it's not just for any condition. Most companies that do offer it cater to very specific conditions. And off late, I'm seeing a trend where they're trying to stick to an ABCD terminology is what they call it. I think given that these are probably 4 of the most common health conditions in India. So A being asthma, B being high blood pressure or hypertension, C stands for cholesterol, and D is for diabetes or high blood sugar.
Good wordplay.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Aditya Birla has also gone to the extent of calling it ABCD++. So they have included a couple more.
Oh, okay.
Nothing with E and F, but they have included some things like heart conditions and so on.
Okay.
Which once again, I think is definitely a standout feature in terms of offering coverage even to people who have existing problems like heart conditions. Yeah, I think it's just their attempt to make health insurance more inclusive for everyone.
Right, right. Good move there by Aditya Birla. Let's do this. Why don't you give me a rundown of the basic policy features? That is what Activ One MAX covers.
Okay.
Under 1 minute.
Okay, let me try to do that.
Okay.
Firstly, I think we can touch upon probably the most basic thing, which is room rent. So this plan does not come with any room rent restrictions. Next, we can move on to co-payment. This is a situation where you and the insurance company co-pay the bill together. Thankfully, this as well is 0%. Then we move on to disease-wise sublimits. This plan doesn't have any disease-wise sublimits, meaning no matter what condition I get, my entire insurance amount is available to me. Next, we can move on to pre- and post-hospitalization. So here, essentially, these are expenses that I can claim before and after getting admitted, right? Whatever I spent on tests, medicines, and checkups and so on, related to my hospitalization. I think they've done a pretty decent job here with the timeline they've given us. So it's about 90 days pre-hospitalization and 180 days post-hospitalization.
Impressive.
So up to 3 months before I get admitted, I'm claiming all my expenses, and same for, post-discharge, almost 6 months. Then you have Ayush coverage, which stands for your Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathic treatments. Not everyone believes or follows these treatments, but there's no harm if I'm covered for it. You get a free annual health checkup once a year. That should be sort of covered within this policy. Domiciliary expenses, which is in a situation like COVID, where the hospital is running out of beds, in case I was forced to hospitalize at home, then even those expenses can be reimbursed. Then we can look at daycare treatments, which is within 24 hours the treatments I get, even those are covered in this insurance plan. And lastly, they do have a restoration benefit as well, wherein if I make a claim from my insurance, the policy will be restored or refilled automatically.
Yeah. Interesting. And how about the waiting periods? Are they the standard?
Yeah, they're actually the pretty standard waiting periods, right? One is the first 30 days, which is wherein for the first 30 days of your plan, nothing is covered other than accidents. Next is for the first 2 years. This is known as the specific illness waiting period, and I think we can list out the disease on our screen. So here for these conditions, you would not be covered for the first 24 months. And this is in case they're diagnosed after buying the plan. In case these are already existing, then they're called as pre-existing conditions. And that, like we discussed, the waiting period is subjective and can be customized, but yeah, it's the usual.
At the start of the video, you mentioned that this is a feature that has all modern age benefits. Again, I took a look at the brochure and there are 17 plus add-ons. Sushant, now that's a lot, right? I've only seen this in another plan, that is the ICICI Elevate plan.
Right.
But when you went through the brochure, can you tell me a few that caught your eyes and maybe you can speak about that?
Sure. So I think one that I found a bit interesting, maybe to start off with, was it was something related to cancer, right? So I think it was a cancer cover of sorts, wherein suppose I have a 20 lakh insurance and the policyholder gets diagnosed with cancer of a specified severity. Just for the treatment of that, he's offered double the coverage. For everything else, he still has a 20 lakh policy, but for that treatment, he can claim up to 40 lakh. So essentially another 100% of coverage just for that. Now I thought this was a bit unique because I'm sure we've all heard of stories, right, where treating critical illnesses as such could really rake up significant medical bills. So I think that was a bit nice of them to sort of customize and offer that. Another one would be something that was interesting called compassionate visit charges, right? So essentially what this does is, in case you're hospitalized for more than 10 days, they do offer to cover the return cost of a flight trip for a family member to either visit you or for you to travel back home.
Okay.
So essentially a certain budget of up to 50,000 rupees where they do cover that cost as well.
A fancy air ambulance.
Yeah, true. in a way. And I think the last one, of course, was the chronic care, right? I really like to think we need more and more policies catering to people who have chronic health conditions that require constant treatment. So I think the fact that Aditya Birla is willing to customize a plan for them as well and offer extensive coverage that they can even claim OPD expenses for those and so on. I think that really stood out to me.
Aditya Birla has so many features and it's looking really good on paper. So I'm sure that the premiums and the cost would be really, really high. Is that the case?
No, you'd actually be surprised. I think even there they've done a solid job at the pricing, right? It's actually quite normally priced.
Okay.
I think rather than boring you with numbers, I think it's easier if we just display it on our screen. And I think as most of our viewers can see, it's priced quite reasonably in comparison to an HDFC and a Care and even an ICICI, right, which are considered some of the top players in the industry. So I think, yeah, really excited to see how well this plan takes off in the market.
Right. So just to summarize, we went over the 7 variants, what they cover, what is the coverage, the waiting period, the different add-ons. We even took a look at the premiums. Now, not every plan is foolproof, right? So there has to be a few hicks here and there. So have you found out any for Aditya Birla Activ One?
So I think each variant does have its slight trade-off here and there. For example, if I were to talk about the next plan, they have a really long pre-existing disease waiting period. If I were to look at the VIP plan, for instance, they don't really offer any loyalty bonus. So I think at the end of the day, like we mentioned in the start, right, it's honestly based on your preferences and what customization works the best for you. If you value feature A over feature B and you're okay with this compromise, do go for it. And I think that's the best part about this plan, right, where you've got so many variants that you will end up finding some variant in the other for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Finally, what is it that Ditto recommends regarding Aditya Birla Activ One plan?
Look, here's the honest truth, right? I think as a plan, it's absolutely packed with all the features you can think of. It's comprehensive, it's got the flexibility options as well, and it's priced quite reasonably too. Nonetheless, at least what I would say is that, look, Aditya Birla is still a relatively new player in the market. They are showing a lot of promise, not only in terms of this particular plan, but overall their performance in terms of CSR, complaints, and all other metrics that you should look at. So yes, we are continuing to monitor them. We've recently partnered with them, and so far we've had a pretty good experience. But yes, I think at Ditto, that's one thing we always do, where even if we've been associated with the brand for almost 4 years now, we still continue to track and monitor their performance, just to make sure that things are smooth, and at the end of the day, we're giving out the right and best advice.
Exactly. That's what we do at Ditto. Now, finally, Sushant, yay or nay?
Right. So look, I think it's definitely a strong contender with some of the big players out there and the kind of features that they offer. At the end of the day, yes, I would encourage our users to make sure that they read the fine print, go through the wordings properly, and then take a call for themselves. Right. Like I mentioned, if you do find something that fits your requirements, then yes, it's a really good option to consider.
Great, great. Thanks, Sushant. Folks, this marks the end of this video of our review of Aditya Birla Activ One plan. Now, if you found this video helpful, please drop a like. And if you have any doubts, comment them and Sushant will be able to answer them. And folks, like always, happy insurance hunting.